You guys remember the Cuban Missile Crisis? It was considered one of the scariest events of the Cold War. The 13-day showdown brought the world's two superpowers, Russia and the United States, to the brink of nuclear war. In the fall of 1962, the United States demanded that the Soviets halt construction of newly discovered missile bases in communist Cuba. These bases were just 90 miles from the U.S. shores, and they were feared that these missiles could reach the United States. What followed was an intense standoff played out almost exclusively at the highest levels. The crisis was averted when President Kennedy, the last American Democrat, most of them are now communist, he negotiated skillfully with the president of Russia, Nikita Khrushchev. I wasn't even born until a year later. However, some of the movies and documentaries I've seen about this were pretty intense. So intense that the people of the United States were actually worried about nuclear war happening in their backyard every day when they woke up. Like I said, cooler heads prevailed and the tension died down. Well, now we have Biden comparing the war in Ukraine to being the biggest nuclear threat since the Cuban Missile Crisis. Is he right, or is his delusions growing even bigger? So far, Russian President Putin has not said he was going to use nuclear weapons, but he didn't say he wasn't going to use nuclear weapons. Putin did say that he would defend his country with all means necessary. As the fear-mongering Democrats always do, they propagate the fear and lies of the worst-case scenario to instill fear and control over American people. So what does Biden do? He makes the following statements. Armageddon is on the highest level since 1962 Cuban Missile Crisis. Armageddon? Really? By the way, the definition of Armageddon, according to Webster's, is the place where the last battle between good and evil will be fought. Oh boy. Here's what the biblical scholars believe Armageddon will look like. They believe that after all other religions have been destroyed, the governments of the world will begin persecuting witnesses, and God will then intervene, precipitating Armageddon. You know, the end of the world as we know it. There are so many things wrong with his statement that I just want to press into some of the highlights. Even if he simply means the threat of nuclear war is at its highest since the Cuban Missile Crisis, it's not the same thing when you have missiles pointed at Florida versus missiles pointed at barren areas of Ukraine. The actual quote from Biden was this: "We have not faced the prospect of Armageddon since Kennedy and the Cuban Missile Crisis." He suggested the threat from Putin is real because his military is, you might say, significantly underperforming. I guess we need a new reason to all be masked up for the next few years, or the next fear-created crisis, like the scamdemic over the past 3 years. Don't forget to, get your radiation poisoning vaccine, but don't worry, your death from the radiation poison won't be as bad if you have the vaccine. The radiation poison vaccine will only have mild symptoms, like, your genitals probably will fall off. You'll have to pee out of your ears, but it probably won't be all urine. And your hair? Well, put it this way. Wig manufacturers are gearing up for the Biden Armageddon prevention. Oh, and those liaisons on your skin most likely will be in places that you can't see as long as you're wearing long sleeves, long pants, a hat, and a face mask. Oh, and of course, if you hear the warnings alarm for a nuclear attack and you need to go to a fallout shelter, don't forget to bring your mask in case you're in contact with what used to be a normal human because they didn't take the COVID vaccine or the nuclear fallout vaccine. No, Biden, we aren't on the brink of Armageddon, at least not from Putin. According to scholars that believe that after all other religions have been destroyed, the governments of the world will be persecuting witnesses and God will then intervene, precipitating Armageddon, you and the rest of the Democrats will be the cause of Armageddon. So Biden is correct. We're on the brink of Armageddon, but he won't admit that he and Soros are the reason for it.